Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for hopping on to our webinar. We'll get started in just a minute to let everyone hop on and settle in. Thank you. Wonderful. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. We definitely see the attendees coming on through, so appreciate you guys hopping on, and welcome to our Data Automation for Innovation webinar here at Experian. So we're super excited to share a bunch with you in the next hour or so. We can move to the next slide. And we'll just wait for everyone to hop on to video. We have a great panel here of experts from Experian. And so we just wanted to take a minute to introduce ourselves. So my name is Jordan Tetler. I am the product marketing manager over here at Experian Data Quality for North America. I'm located in the Boston area. I've been with the business for about 6 years. And so in that time have really become fascinated with data quality and how we're able to really help the world with better information. So I'll pass it to you, Erin, to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Jordan, and hi, everyone. My name is Erin Hazelcorn. I'm based in Charleston, South Carolina. I've been with Experian for about 15 years now. And during that time, I've had a number of different hats, but I've done a lot of market research. I've worked with our industry analyst partners, really to talk through a wide range of issues going on in the market, data automation certainly being one of those. So looking forward to the discussion today. Lori, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Lori Schnittman. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Experian Data Quality globally. I've been with Experian for about 2 years, and I know my accent fools people, but I'm actually based in central London.
Hi, everyone. I'm Coleman Wakefield, so I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Experian Data Quality. I'm also based in central London as well, which you probably will guess from my accent more so than Laurie. I've been with Experian for about 6 years, primarily responsible for all of Experian Data Quality's product portfolio, but over the last few years, specifically been very involved in architecture, design, implementation of Aperture Data Studio, which we're going to show a bit more of today. I've spent my entire career in the software industry, specifically building enterprise data management software.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. So we're super excited to hear from each one of them today. So a great agenda ahead of us. We'll start with Erin, and she's going to give us some market detail around what is really driving data automation. So great market insight there. We'll then hear from Lori around where Experian is playing a role in all of this and kind of how we're helping our customers, what we're hearing from our customers. So great insight there. We'll then come to Coleman, and he'll actually give you a live demo of our data quality platform, Aperture Data Studio, and how automation is built in within the platform and how it can help you there. And we'll end on a Q&A with the wonderful panel we have here. So Erin, I'll pass it to you.
Thanks, Jordan. And again, thank you all so much for joining us today. There's certainly a lot of hype going on right now around automation and artificial intelligence in general right now. We're not going to dive into the political and ethical questions around that today, but we're certainly going to be talking about the desire for automation from a business perspective. And if we jump to the next slide, one of the things that's really interesting is, most businesses have for a while looked to be more data driven. The digital age, digital transformation, it's really been a focus to rethink about the speed in which we're serving customers and the way that we provide services. If you just look at Experian as an example, right? Many years ago, it used to take days to pull a credit report. Today, that's done in seconds. When you think about that degree of change, you have to think about automation in the digital age to achieve those kinds of transformations, right? And there are, certainly speed to service that has had a lot of benefits already. But when we think about automation, it has the potential to decrease human error, to increase capacity, to do things more quickly, to improve the service to the customer, and certainly to do more with less. Much of that transformation in some ways has already occurred, but now we're looking to automate even more. And instead of just pulling things more quickly, we're looking to consolidate a lot of kind of different data elements into a single place and automatically determine things like the next best outcome for a customer, to automate the claims process in insurance. So claims adjusters are only reviewing the most difficult cases, right? To think about automation in terms of fulfillment and even content language generation. There are a lot of things that we're looking at next, and it's really the potential for automation here is really promising, but it doesn't come without its challenges. And when we think about automation in all of these different capacities, it is contingent on data. What I often see happening is when we start to talk about hype around modeling or model ops or decisioning technology, those are all great and really powerful tools, but we often forget about the data foundation that really plays a key role here. Data feeds into the decision-making process of any automation. And so organizations that are looking to take advantage of business intelligence or automation around next best action, all of those really need a foundation of data quality to drive those decisions and those outcomes. The intelligence is only as good as the data as that is supplied. And so we really need to have trust in our data. If the information isn't trusted, then any of the downstream processes that come from that data are not going to be trusted. And so this is one of the reasons why we see, again, from Gartner this year, that data and analytics remains one of the top investment areas for companies. If we want to have intelligence, we're going to have to invest in things like data and analytics. And if we move to the next slide, when we think about the data, one of the challenges that we see with this automation is that we still have a high degree of inaccurate data. We've seen from Experian research over the years that respondents believe about a third of their data is inaccurate. Now, there's a lot to unpack there around the types of information that may be inaccurate, how it might be used, but it's still a lot of inaccurate information. And so that means, as part of that, you can see on the screen, 94% of our survey respondents say poor data quality is negatively impacting their organization. Now, the process to fix data today is often very reactive. It can be heavily manual. And data stewards are faced with so much volume of data in so many different places, it can be really hard to keep up with all the issues that arise across so many different data sources and with so many people using and manipulating the data. And so when data is bad, the decisions and the downstream processes from that data can be flawed. And so the top roadblocks to data and analytics success that we see are things like skills and staffing shortages, a lack of resources and funding, a lack of business stakeholder involvement, things like cultural changes, poor data literacy. These are all things that really we have to think about when we're dealing with the quality of data. And that ultimately means that we need to not just think about automation in terms of the decisions that we're making, but also automation in terms of the data quality process. The status quo hasn't been working in terms of the resources that we have that we can allocate to improving the quality of data. We certainly see 85% of leaders saying that they want to automate data quality activities, really to overcome things like the skill shortage, to make sure that they're reducing the effort it takes to maintain data and to speed up analysis. So we really are starting to think through how can we actually start to improve some of these areas and speed that up. And if we go to the last slide that I'm going to cover, in this section, what that means is that we need to make sure we're using machine learning and artificial intelligence in our data quality tooling and processes. Gartner actually says that 90% of data quality technology buying decisions are going to focus on things like ease of use, automation, operational efficiency, interoperability. Those are all going to be key focuses when you're looking to determine what's the right data quality tooling set for you. And a lot of this disruption is being fueled by this new age of metadata, data about the data, and AI. And it's really designed to simplify and automate the data quality process. Through that automation, tooling can do things like point out more common issues, draw attention to where the data may be causing the biggest challenges, and again, help automate some of those instances where it can even automatically correct data. The goal is to improve the efficiency, to make the data quality processes more accessible, and frankly, ensure that you have more of that trusted data set to rely on as you start to automate all these different processes. And with that, I'm going to actually turn things over to Lori to talk about what Experian is doing and thinking about in terms of our role with automation.
Thanks, Erin. So you've just heard the broader market perspective from Erin. So what are we at Experian hearing every day from our clients? What are the common challenges? What are our clients trying to do? And if you go to the next slide, I'll start with a concrete example of what we hear every day. For example, HomePoint, a leading US mortgage lender, they came to us because they were spending over 65 hours a month manually preparing data for credit reporting standards. What did they want to do? They wanted to automate it all so they could save time and reduce risk of human error. They also wanted to democratize data access, saving time needed for management to review the data and improve visibility across teams. So another concrete client example, in the UK, West Yorkshire Police Department, the police are super reliant on the quality of their data, as any name recorded could be linked to crime victims, to witnesses, to suspects. If that data isn't accurate, it can lead to errors in the assessment of threats, harms, and risks that hugely impact our day-to-day lives. So why did they come to us? They realized it would have taken 2.5 years to manually correct all of the data errors they saw with the existing resources that they had. They needed a solution that would leverage the latest in machine learning and automation to help them reduce duplication, to tag sensitive data, and to improve overall quality. So we're hearing some common themes from clients across sectors, across countries even, and I'm curious if this resonates with this broader group on the webinar today. We're hearing that everyone has resource constraints, limited number of people with the right skills, every organization is cost conscious, and everyone's trying to do more with less. Data democratization, this is a big theme we're hearing. Clients are asking us, how can we make sure that not just our data scientists, but business users and teams across the business can collaborate and get the data they need? How do we take the power of data out of a silo and empower our citizen data scientists across the organization? Alongside this, we're hearing a lot about insights and visibility. Clients want tools that can help them visualize data, track and monitor the health of their data in a way that can be shared, with management and with colleagues. And of course, it's all about efficiency. Everyone wants to do more, go faster, drive more value. So automation is critical. So if we go to the next slide, what does that mean in terms of the types of features clients are looking for? They're looking for features like data tagging, like smart profiling, data observability, automated rules, automated transformations. And of course, we hear a lot about cloud infrastructure. Everybody wants something, an offering that's on the cloud. So this is where Aperture Data Studio comes in, helping our clients to drive that automation. And it has all those key features that clients are looking for. And Komen will show you the magic in a moment. So Aperture has been built from the ground up over the last 25 years to deliver modern self-service data quality and preparation together with globally curated data sets. Aperture allows the modern data practitioner to drive data initiatives from a single, easy-to-use platform in a fraction of the time. We're big believers in AI and in machine learning, and this is essential to drive automation. So Aperture uses this great capability to help automate manual tasks and to reduce the time to find and correct your data. So if we go to the next slide, so what do our customers say? And you'll hear more about this in a moment, I'm sure. Back to our example of the West Yorkshire Police, they were able to increase productivity by 600%. and they told us Aperture allowed their team to focus on the trickier cases instead of the small and easier ones, so focusing their resources on the cases that matter. HomePoint, the mortgage lender, used our Data Arc 360 solution, which is powered by Aperture. They saw immediate impact, saving over 50 hours a month. Additionally, they told us that the clear view of the data anomalies helped them to uncover potential fraud, and the pre-configured dashboards and visualizations provided them a comprehensive review and quick fix prioritization. Another client that we worked with, Shawbrook, implemented Aperture to create a consistent customer record for all source systems. This gave them a clear view of who their customers actually were across different business lines. They used Aperture to gain insights into potential fraud risks and compliance risks. This enabled them to streamline a lot of their regulatory and reporting processes. So all in all, they were able to turn siloed manual processes into seamless, automated, and connected workflows. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Komen to actually dive into the tool.
Okay, thank you, Erin. If we just get control passed over to me, I can go ahead and share my screen. Okay, I'm assuming you can all see my screen here. So Aperture Data Studio is a huge product, and we've got 20 minutes to show you here. So what I'm going to do is just focus on the aspects of Aperture Data Studio that relates to automation. Now, what I have here is an instance of Aperture, and I'm just going to go to the data sets here. As you can see, I've got a few data sets of data that we've defined here in Data Studio. Some are coming from Salesforce, some from CSV files. I've got a customer file here just to keep things simple for the purposes of this demonstration. So this is fake customer data with all the usual things that you might expect to see in here: forename, surname, all the contact information, address, sales last year, a particular discount code that applies to them. Now, the first aspect of automation has actually already happened here in opening this file, and that is, as you can see, these kind of tags that appear on the columns here. So what Aperture has done here is it's analyzed the data against fingerprints that the system holds, that we have taught the data through supervised machine learning, and it's identified what that data may be, and it's tagged the data. Now, the interesting one here is account number. So it's actually recognized through machine learning that these look like account numbers, so it's tagged these as account numbers. Now, this might all seem fairly trivial at the start, but these tags are actually now used to drive a lot of the automation throughout the product. For example, if it recognizes something as an email, it may want to start suggesting things like, do you want to mask out your email address because this is PII information, for example. So you can kind of see how the different types of data can drive a lot of the automation through the product. What we can do here is explore the data. This gives us the kind of thing you would do when you don't know anything about your data, when you're first analyzing your data. And typically, I mean, you can do all the kind of things you would expect to do here: sort, transform, and group, and manipulate your data in an interactive way. One of the things people typically like to do is run a profile straight away. So I'm going to profile all of the columns, and you can immediately see at the bottom here, for each of the columns, we've got lots and lots. I can look at all of the statistics. We've got over 71 statistics here about the data. I'm just going to select outliers. So by outliers, we mean anomalies in the data that you may be interested in, and I'm going to apply that. So as we look through the data here, discount code is something I briefly mentioned earlier. You can see that this is showing us having rare values. Now, this is entirely interactive, and we can go through and actually look at those values. And we can see straight away that the vast majority of this data all uses one of 4 discount codes. That would suggest that these extra 4 ones that are being used here may be used in error. Again, fully interactive. We can go into the rows, immediately see the offending record here for this discount code, and we may want to go back to our source systems and actually solve that. Let me go back to the profile again by just removing these steps. dates are always a problem with data quality. We have a first order date here, and this is actually showing some rare formats. We can actually look at formats as well as values. So you can see here that we've got quite a few records that don't have any date. The vast majority, 99.7%, are all in the format that we recognize. And there's one record here which has got an alphanumeric character at the start. We can drill into that and immediately see that the date seems to have an I instead of a 1 for 16 there on the front. So you can see very quickly how we can get some insights into our data and where our problems are. But typically, this is all very well interactive when we're doing the discovery phase. What people want to do is kind of create sets of rules. We can create hundreds of rules that we want to run against our data set so that we can monitor it over time. So the next bit of automation I want to show you here is where the product can use what it's learned via machine learning, via its profiling information, to actually start suggesting some rules that you may want to create. You'll notice here that the discount code is actually suggesting you may want to validate that it is one of those 4 values where most of the records are kept. And there's some here you can completely define your own functions, by the way. One here, it's notice for name, and we've configured the system to say when you recognize a for name, suggest a validation rule to see if it actually contains any offensive words. We can build hundreds of these and they're all fully customizable. I'm going to apply all of these rules. And what this has done for us is automated the process of us actually creating a workflow that we would run on a periodic basis. So this workflow has 2 steps, and I'm in the workflow editor now. You can see down the left-hand side, there's all kinds of things that we can do to our data here. And we even have a software developers kit where we can build extra steps in here and they appear as if they are native steps within the product. So if you've got some kind of very bespoke business logic within your business that you want to appear as a step here for workflows, we can do that. Now this validate step that it's generated here, it's generated all of these rules. So for example, the customer ID following that particular format, if I actually just show you the rule that it's generated, you'll notice that there's no code involved in any of this product. It's all drag and drop, all designed for the business user, very intuitive. It's generated all of this for us. So if I come out of here, you'll see there's lots of outputs to this step that can then feed into the next step of the workflow. One of them is to show the results by rule. So I look at the output there, and that's running that validation on all of that data. And you can see we've got kind of traffic light information here. Even in here, we can explore, drill into the data and find more information about it. So there's several things we may want to do with this data here. One of them is for all of the failing rows, we may want to, let's have a look, track issues. So that's one of the steps that we have here. So failing rows, I want to actually track issues, and I'll put it in a particular issue list, tell it what the record key is. And what that will do is, this is another part of our story on automation, is when the validation finds records that are failing your validation rules, it will automatically create an issue, automatically assign it, again, using some business rules that you have. But even more importantly, when you run this workflow again in the future, if it identifies that a particular failed validation rule is no longer failing, but there is an issue outstanding for it, it will automatically close that issue for you as well. So what else might you want to do with your data? You may want to transform it. So all of the passing rows, you may want to do some transformations. Now, when we say transform data, I mean, you could do absolutely anything. There's unlimited things that you may want to do with your data here. But if I go into this step, here's our next layer of automation. We can get the system to suggest some rules for you. Now, this, again, using our machine learning algorithms, I briefly mentioned this earlier. It's because of this auto tagging that we have, it's recognized there's an email. And so it's saying you may want to mask out your email. So how about applying that transform to your email? Again, this is highly configurable yourself. You can get it to automatically suggest transforms using functions you've created yourself. I'm going to apply that, and then we can have a look at the output from this transform, and we can see all the emails have been redacted there. So that's just a very simple transformation. It's automatically created for us. So I talked about tracking issues here. If I go over to this other instance of Aperture I've got here, we have very kind of elaborate dashboards for actually presenting a lot of the results that you get from these workflows. Highly configurable, you can create your own. What we've done here is we've created a dashboard which uses the results from all the issues that have been created. It tracks over time who's closing them, what systems they may be coming from. So we can look at trends of the issues over time, which issues may be reappearing, which may suggest you've got kind of some issues with your source systems in terms of how much you can trust it. You can start tracking by source system, etc. So on the last level of automation, I talked about all of these rules that you can create. You can either create manually or you can use our automation facilities to actually create all these rules for you. But in an operational system of Aperture, you could have thousands and thousands of these rules. In fact, some of the very mature customers we have, they do have thousands of these rules. And one of the issues, and this is on the topic of data observability, really, which we've been quite excited about and focusing on recently, is how do we narrow in on the results of these validation rules that are actually interesting? Because to monitor 6,000 rules every week to see which ones are failing and which ones are passing is quite a laborious job. And even just to say, right, in an automated way, tell me all of the rules that are now failing, because some of those may not be interesting because it's been failing for the last, for the last year, and you just keep having to monitor the same things all the time. So what we've tried to do is build in some observability such that when your validation rules are being run, Aperture knows or learns which ones are interesting to you. And it does that by sending you notifications that it thinks you may find interesting. You tell it whether you find it interesting or not, and through supervised learning, it will learn the nature of the issues that you're interested in monitoring over time. So I have some files here in a folder, and I have another folder here. Now, Aperture has been set up to monitor this folder, and by that I mean whenever a file lands in here, it will automatically process that file and remove it. It will automatically run all of the validation rules against that data within Aperture, and then if it finds something interesting, it will notify you. So in the interest of keeping it live, and in fact, just to keep me honest, I'm going to go to the job screen here, which runs a job within Aperture, and I'm going to drop a file into this folder. Now, you can imagine this could be an FTP site, or it could be an upload from a website or whatever. So I'm going to paste this in here. This should disappear, which it has. And the reason why it's done that is you can see here it's automatically kicked off a job that has now completed, where it's actually auto-validated. And you can see here in the top, it's actually notified me. I'm going to view my notifications. And straight away, it's actually noticed that the email validation is not null rule. That's one of our rules. Has actually changed significantly. It's actually got worse since the last time we loaded this data, and it thinks you may be interested in that. Are you interested? Yes or no? It will learn over time what things interest you. So just for one more, I will drop sign of, imagine we're in week number 2. Copy that, and we'll drop this into folder here. And that should auto process, which it has done. And there's the job that's being run. So it's not noticed anything different about this week. Nothing that it thinks you will be interested in. So let's try week 3 and paste that in. So as that data comes along and it's processed, it's now noticed some things that you may be interested in again. So the email is not null is actually now got a lot better. We can go through all of these notifications and see the kind of things that it's notifying you on. So this is kind of the end of my demo now, but I just wanted to kind of show you the kind of end-to-end process by which we can use automation within Data Studio, to make your life more productive and a lot easier. No code involved, so We're doing everything that we can for you, but most importantly, using Aperture through what it's learned from your preferences to actually get insights into your data that you may not have even thought to actually look for yourself in an automated way. So thanks for that. And I think back over to you now, Jordan.
Awesome. Thank you, Coleman. That was a great live demo of our Aperture Data Studio product. So thank you for that. Okay, now everyone, we are ready for our Q&A with the presenters here. A few things before we get into this. So there is a Q&A option for you all to submit questions. So it's right on your GoToWebinar screen, and definitely feel free to pop in any questions that you have for this group here. And another thing is that we will be sending this webinar out to you all and anyone that has registered after this call within the next few days or so. So definitely feel free to share it around if you want to dive into it a little bit more yourself, or you think that this content here would be interesting to anyone else. But okay. With that, let's jump into our Q&A. So we already see some questions coming in. All right, okay. Aaron, I think this one would be great for you to kick us off with. So why is automation a hot topic right now?
Yeah, I think we went over a little bit of this data, but I really do think when we think about the acceleration we've seen with data usage, right? We frankly don't have the data resourcing and data staff across all these businesses to be able to take advantage of the insights and the power of data and the potential that sits there. So I frankly think automation is becoming more important. One, again, we can eliminate some things like human error, but we can better take advantage of the data and frankly be able to better leverage the data resources that we do have, because consistently we're seeing kind of the retention of staff and having data talent and fostering new data talent being some of the top challenges around being able to actually leverage data the way that businesses want to. And so I think with automation, you know, we can do more with less, and again, take out maybe especially some of those rudimentary tasks that staffers and data practitioners don't necessarily want to get into the weeds doing. I don't think any data scientist wants to spend hours before doing analysis preparing data and getting it in the right formats to be able to actually execute on the jobs that they want to do. So I think that's part of the reason we're seeing this huge focus on automation. But Lori, Coleman, I don't know if you have anything that you all want to add.
Yeah, sure. I agree with all that. Also, there's the skills level thing as well. You know, not everyone has the kind of resource and skill levels to actually deal with a lot of the data quality issues that come up, and automation is kind of a way of lowering that bar as well. I mean, you probably saw through the product demo there, but our focus is really primarily on that ease of use, no code thing. And I think automation is one of the key aspects of actually taking that kind of required skill level down as well. So it opens it up to all the data practitioners rather than just the technical ones.
Anything to add, Lori?
I think Aaron and Coleman covered the high points, but yeah, I think, you know, in addition to kind of the broader market trends, I think, again, everybody is trying to do less with more, trying to drive more value faster, and automation plays a huge part in that journey.
Awesome. All great points there. And one thing that's coming to mind when we talk about data automation too is that Experian has actually done extensive research on automation. And so we came out with a report last year that was around data automation, data quality automation, and what the market is seeing there. And we're actually coming out with another report that definitely ties in this topic in September. So keep an eye out on that but that's my little plug for the research that we have going on over here. Great, so on that same trend, so Komen, I think this would be a great one for you. This is a multi-parter. So are there different types of automation or different ways to define automation? And what's data quality's role in that?
Yeah, I think that question is probably answered multiple different ways depending on who you ask. So I'll just give you my perspective, which may differ from various things you may see throughout the industry. I kind of see automation as one of at least two things. One is actually just taking away the boring stuff. Just think of it in terms of minimizing the number of clicks you have to do, and just making your life easier. And that's the kind of most understandable one, I guess. And if I refer back to my demo, just the suggestions and things like that is, creating these things for you rather than you having to manually do them yourself. But the second one is really the discovery side of things. So it's where the system can automate the process of telling you things that you actually didn't know you need to look for, which I think is where the real power and value comes out, which is why data observability is such a hot topic at the moment, and why we're placing such emphasis on it as well. The role that data quality plays in that, well, I always use the phrase data quality is kind of the cornerstone of data management and the entire life cycle of data management. So data quality plays a role in all of data management, whether it be right from governance to all the various aspects of it. So I think it's prevalent everywhere would be my answer to that.
Wonderful. Erin, Lori, anything to add to that?
No, I think that was a great way of looking at it, Komen. And again, I think, as you said, it's about taking away some of the boring stuff, right? Making it easier where you have auto tagging, where you're providing those suggestions. I think those are really kind of key pieces. And I think too, we're putting a lot of emphasis on automation, but elements of that have been around for quite a long time. We're just seeing it far more commercialized and a lot more emphasis being placed on it. Technology has gotten a little better, but again, that kind of concept of how do we automate these processes and make things that are more rudimentary easier for people is a concept that has been around for quite a long time.
Yeah, and what I'd add to that is in addition to that kind of automating what you're already doing, I really liked Komen's point around also helping you to see things you might have not noticed on your own, and driving new insights in an automated way that helps you tackle the real problems that you need to address, things that you wouldn't have automated a process to begin with at the beginning. So yeah, it's the combination of not just doing what you've already done better, faster, without the boring stuff, but also the new insight that automation and machine learning and AI can drive.
Great. So we have a few questions coming up around resourcing. So Erin, I think this one could be for you, and then Komen, there's another one around users for Aperture. But Erin, let's start with you. The question is, what are some of the resourcing constraints you see around data quality?
Yeah, I think, again, resourcing continues to be a huge issue. We're seeing that come up time and time again in survey data, not just our own survey information, but that of the analyst firms like Gartner and Forrester and others, right? That kind of resourcing and staffing is a key issue. I think data quality is something, as Komen said, it's the cornerstone, right? It is the cornerstone of data management. I think that's a great way to put it. But it's one of those areas where we often just kind of lose sight of it or take advantage of the fact that we just assume the data is going to be right. And we make assumptions that the data is just going to work. And that's not always the case, right? And so we certainly see time and time again, especially with the democratization of data and more people putting in data into the system, that there is more room for error It could just be a simple mistyping of things or putting things into the wrong fields. And there's a lot of issues that can crop up, formatting changes. Any one of these things can just throw a kink into an automated process that is reliant on data. Even a misplaced decimal point can have huge implications. So again, when we think about the resourcing, you have to have automation to be able to look for some of those outliers and those issues. Because again, if you were to rely on somebody manually going through the volumes of data that we are dealing with today, or trying to handle all of this in a spreadsheet type of capacity, you would just never have enough resources to deal with all the issues that you could expect. So again, I think we've partially been relying on manual processing still for too long. We don't have enough data stewards and data engineers and data talent. They have a varying degree of skills and sophistication and maturity that they're operating with. And I think all of that plays to some of the resourcing constraints that we're seeing that hopefully automation can start to help with.
Yeah, those are wonderful points, Erin. And another question that's coming around resourcing specifically for Aperture, the question is, do most companies that use this tool have a dedicated person who works on this 100% of the time, or do they assign this tool as, a solution for others to use?
Yeah, you're probably not going to like the answer because it's both, and it depends, which is kind of the answer everyone hates. But some customers do have dedicated teams for this stuff. Some actually push it down to the business, and they have data practitioners that use the tool, but it's not their full-time job. I would say it's less common that someone is a kind of full-time user of Aperture Data Studio. It's just a tool that facilitates them in their job as a data steward, I would say.
Yeah, and I would add to that, I think that that's also kind of by design and how we thought about, well, how did we want to design this product? Because we wanted it to be accessible. We wanted to contribute to this broader theme of democratization of data and really empower the business owner, someone who isn't necessarily a data engineer day in, day out, to be able to use the tool to get the insights they need, to get the data they need, and then to share it out, whether that's with their management team, with their colleagues, or even with a regulator in some cases, right? We wanted to create a tool that enabled that kind of ease of use and that ability for non-technical, non-data scientist users to be able to still derive a lot of value.
Yeah, and I mean, I can add to that from personal experience, right? As a non-technical user, very much a marketer here, and whenever we get demos of the tool, whether it's the single customer view use case, I remember I was blown away when I saw that, or even Data Arc 360 and seeing the dashboards there. It's, you kind of nerd out as a non-technical user saying, this is so cool, and even, I can understand it. And so, even speaking from personal experience and seeing how the layout of it, and it is user-friendly and it's really accessible for everyone. Wonderful. Awesome. We have a question actually around Data Arc 360. So Lori, you mentioned this around home point when you were presenting, and it's around, so what is Data Arc 360? I guess we could start there, and then how is it deployed? Is it in the same way as Aperture Data Studio, or is there a cloud version? I feel like that's a multi-parter, but maybe you can start there.
And I'll invite some others to join in to keep me honest. But yeah, so basically what we try to do with Aperture is, it can be used for a wide variety of use cases across identity resolution, data validation, single customer view, et cetera. And I think one use case that we've really focused on, is credit reporting use cases. So looking at different various credit reporting standards, in the UK, in the US, in Australia, in our various target markets, to build pre-configured packages that help organizations meet those credit reporting requirements and do it in a very pre-configured and standardized way. So we've worked, to build a package that kind of has all of the right workflows, all of the right rules that are required to comply, to show compliance with, and then a set of tailored dashboards and report that enables users to monitor the quality of their data and monitor their compliance with these regulations on an ongoing basis. And so our Data Arc 360 package is a package built on top of Aperture. So it's still the Aperture platform, but it's a pre-configured set of workflows and dashboards that enable, very targeted compliance with this specific reporting requirement, which I believe is based on the Metro 2 requirement for those of you in North America that are interested in exactly which requirement it is. So in terms of how it's deployed, I think currently we've got it available as an on-premise solution. I believe we have it coming in the cloud very soon. It's, stay tuned and watch this space. But it's certainly something that we as Experian, we know that we've got a kind of an expertise that we want to bring to our clients and help make their lives easier when they're trying to comply with these credit, reporting regulations. So I'll jump to Komen or to Jordan if there's anything else that we need to flag or that I didn't cover, in covering the Data Arc 360 propositions. I know you both are closer to it.
No, I think that explains it perfectly. Just wanted to add on to it that it is an example where you can build your rules and workflows and all of your clever things, your dashboards, etc. In Aperture. And what Aperture allows you to do is create a distributable package. I always kind of use the analogy of games consoles and cartridges, right? So think of Aperture as like a games console, and you can buy cartridges for it. And Data Arc 360 is like one of the cartridges that we happen to have built, but you can actually, go build your own and sell them as well. So you can actually build your own content and it can be deployed in other Aperture instances.
Yeah, definitely close to the Data Arc 360 proposition over here, but nothing else to add. I think you both covered it perfectly. Okay, let's see what else we have coming through here. Lori, I'm going to keep you on. So this question is around data quality. Data quality has been around for a long time. So why are we still having data quality issues?
Oh, that's a good question. And I think at a high level, I would say the goalpost keeps moving because the volumes of data have just been exploding. And just taking a step back, what's been going on in the broader market? Nothing surprising. We've all been living through it. But over the last, couple of years, all sectors have undergone seismic change, and COVID accelerated what was already happening. Literally overnight, after COVID, every touch point with a client changed. Also, for end consumers, for businesses, even for us at Experian, digital became really the imperative. Consumers and businesses, they didn't just want to, they had to engage virtually in real time. And of course, with this digital explosion came a data explosion. E-commerce continued to explode. Amazon has already set that standard for a personalized, optimized customer journey, all aligned to these optimized back-end logistics. So very dependent on having accurate data about your consumers and where they live and how to contact them. Every other retailer had to really catch up quickly. Healthcare went digital. Consumer identity resolution for things like fraud prevention became really, really critical. And also more recently, I think we've all seen the emergence of generative AI. Every organization is thinking about how they maximize their data to drive value, but also in a safe and a trusted way. And through all of this, we're seeing a rapidly changing regulatory environment related to things like lending, credit, data reporting, consumer privacy, consumer protection. And also more recently with inflationary pressures across many countries, threats of recessions, everyone's preparing to be resilient to a fast changing environment and to do more with what they have and make sure they're leveraging what they have to make the best decisions. So I think all of those factors combined have created this kind of, ever changing definition of good, but also kind of a continued opportunity to define what good looks like and how do we get better. So data quality continues to be top of mind. The tools and the features, and functionality keep getting better and better. But you know, the explosion in the volumes of data are just going to continue to grow. And Aaron, Komen, I don't know if you've got anything to add.
I was going to say,
Nothing.
Lori, even if you just think about the retail experience, again, I think the consumer is part of the reason, a huge reason why the goalpost keeps moving. I mean, just think about when you order a package now online, and we think about e-commerce, if you're not getting a notification that it's shipping pretty much the same day to get it to you within 24 to 48 hours, I mean, think about that. That's now the expectation for most consumers. And when we think about the data that powers that fulfillment process, if there's an error in that information, it's instantaneous that you're going to feel it, and you're going to know that the quality of that data was wrong. And so when we think about how fast things have gotten, a reactive kind of, we're going to see and we're going to be able to manually check things and fix the data in a day or two, that doesn't work because it's being used right away. And so really the consumer and the speed at which our expectations have changed really has brought to the forefront this need for really accurate data and instantaneously accurate data.
Okay, Aaron, I'm going to keep you on now. So Komen mentioned governance when he was speaking earlier around, I think we were talking about data automation, a question around that. And so a question popped up here around how does data governance play a role in data quality? What's the connection there?
Yeah, they're tightly linked. You really rarely see one without the other, right? And so I say that as I've often seen companies that will say we're gonna implement data governance, and they'll look at data governance functionality and then not think about the quality elements and the quality controls that go along with that. I remember several years ago working with Stuart Bond at IDC on this very topic, and you really cannot have one without the other. They're very tightly linked. And so it's really important that when you're working on any kind of governance type of solution and you're looking to put controls around your data, you're constantly monitoring that information, you're constantly profiling and looking at that data to see, is it maintaining the standards that you expect as part of your governance initiative, making sure that you're taking into account the quality of that information, and having it where your data quality tooling and your data governance kind of solution or solutions can communicate with one another. I think that that's really critical. And again, data quality is a cornerstone of data management, or is the cornerstone of data management. Data governance is just part of that, how you're managing the data. So again, really kind of builds on the foundations that you need for data governance. Lori, Komen, I don't know if you guys have anything to add.
No, nothing to add.
Yeah, and I would just echo, Aaron, some of your comments. I think what we see often when we're working with clients is often, there will be kind of the source of the conversation starts with, okay, well, we need a data governance initiative, right? To figure out what are all the various data sources, who owns them, who's changing them, who's monitoring them, how are we using them, are they compliant? And very quickly, the data governance conversation can fall flat. Because they start to realize, well, without quality data, this all falls apart. And so it's interesting that what we're seeing is this tension and this very clear interrelation between, you cannot talk about governance without talking about quality, and they've got to go hand in hand. And so it's an interesting kind of convergence that we're seeing in the market, but also we hear it, day in, day out when we're speaking with our clients, that data quality component is the linchpin to be able to underpin your overall data governance program and approach.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say there's several aspects to data governance. You can think about ownership, who has access to what systems and where the systems are, but a huge portion of governance is the governance of the quality of your data. What constitutes quality data against my business rules? So the two just completely go hand in hand.
Yeah, all good points on data governance. I know that's been a hot topic for some time now. Komen, this one's actually, I think, best suited for you, but definitely anyone feel free to chime in. The question is, does Aperture have native tools that allow for interactability with APIs?
Yeah, so we have our own APIs for starters, which most or all of the functionality exposed via a REST API for Aperture. So you can run workflows and schedules and all that kind of thing. You can even kind of extract the metadata for your business rules as well via our REST API. But also, and arguably more importantly, we have facilities that, well, we have developer kits which allow you to call out to APIs. And that can appear like a workflow step, a native workflow step that you've developed yourself. We have some generic ones, like to generic call out to web service kind of step where you can configure it. But what a lot of people do is, and this is kind of the only bit of Aperture where you need someone technical who can build one of these steps for you, call out to the API, and then the business user can just drag drop it in, and it'll do what you've told it to do, so we can interact with anything. We've got examples of calling out to all kinds of things, so yeah.
Thank you for that. And we have time for probably one or two more. I'm seeing a lot around data observability, so this has been such a buzzword lately in our industry. And so, Aaron, I'm going to pass this to you, but definitely anyone feel free to chime in, as always. But the question is, how are companies using data observability?
Yeah, and I think too, one of the things that's interesting in how we think about observability is, again, you're observing the data. So when we think about how you're looking at data over time and then taking actions on that data, right? We're really trying to help identify key areas where we think you should be taking a look, where you should be, making changes to the information, and having the system where it's smart enough to call out and point those things out to you of when we're seeing changes in the data where you may want to be taking action. I do think there's some general confusion in the market where some people are using this term interchangeably with data quality. It is different, right? And it's an element that I think can be very closely linked with data quality. We certainly come at it from a data quality perspective. But again, you can do all sorts of things around observability, and it can take many different shapes and forms. So I think primarily from our perspective, we look at it, since we're a data quality provider, from a data quality perspective of observing the data and having a smarts in the system to be able to tell you when you may want to be taking action. But Lori, Komen, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, what I would add to that is, I think, going back to the start of our conversation and Komen's example around, there's two kinds of automation, and one is automating what you already know, and the other piece is surfacing things that you didn't know so that you could take action and actually, make a decision. I think data observability is a great example of the latter. And as we build in kind of more tools and features and functionality that improve kind of data observability, it's that power to surface insights that you wouldn't have noticed otherwise, and having that at your fingertips. So I think it's super powerful. And yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see as this term kind of beds in the market and there's more alignment around, well, what do we mean by that, and what does the market mean? It'll be interesting to see how this evolves.
Wonderful. Okay, so I think that's all we have time for. We're right before the hour. Thank you all so much for joining us on this webinar. Again, this will be passed out, we'll send this out rather to you all in the next few days. And as always, feel free to reach out to us if there's any more questions that you have, or if you want to learn more about Aperture and our other product suites. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.